So thank you for joining us today. My talk is titled Synthesizing Lessons from the Western Atlantic Lionfish Invasion to Recommend Policy and Management Strategies for the Expanding Mediterranean Invasion. Now, this is a research paper that is just about to be submitted to Frontiers in Marine Science, so if it interests you, hopefully you can read further details soon. You can see we have many co-authors from both sides of the Atlantic who have contributed their time and efforts to this study. So thanks to everybody. Now, following an east to west lionfish knowledge exchange that happened in Turkey last year, we realized the great need for this paper, as Mediterranean lionfish policy currently does not exist that allows for the control of lionfish. Now, lionfish are invasive because of their severe appetites and their preference for native species. Now, native species are already rapidly declining in the Mediterranean, so control is urgently needed to help control the invasion. Now, surprisingly, lionfish are the best studied invasive species of all time. Actually, they are the only marine invasive species in the Western Atlantic, which is probably why most studies have been dedicated to this. So just to show you what happened in the Western Atlantic invasion, 1985 was the first record for lionfish. And then in the early 2000s, they started to expand into the south. By about 2010, they had reached the southern Caribbean Sea. And they are still expanding to this day. They have now reached Brazil, and in the north they have reached Massachusetts and North Carolina. The Mediterranean invasion, however, the first record was in 1991 in Israel, and then nothing happened for 20 years. So they didn't establish until 2012 from Lebanon. There were a couple of sightings, and from then on, the establishment and their spreading has been really, really fast. So they are quite saturated now in the Eastern Mediterranean. They have now reached the Central Mediterranean, as you can see here, for Sicily, Malta, Southern Italy. And this is happening even faster than the models have predicted. Human removals of lionfish are currently understood to be the most effective way of controlling lionfish populations. And this is because fishers generally do not put their nets over rocky areas, and scuba divers can actually catch many lionfish if they're good at it. So in Belize, there's a record of one diver that caught about 100 lionfish in one dive. And in Cyprus, where they appear to be even denser than they were in the Western Atlantic, some divers are catching approximately 150 lionfish per dive. So these are really great control efforts. Now, since control via scuba diving is generally occurs less than 40 meters, one of our colleagues and amazing co-authors, Dr. Steve Giddings, has developed some lionfish traps for deeper lionfish populations that are continually being tested and improved upon, and hopefully soon they will be ready for wide-scale deployment. So thanks, Steve. Now, what has not worked? Feeding lionfish to potential predators, which was trialed in the Western Atlantic, was definitely found not to be a good idea. This is because these predators, such as sharks and morays, soon started to associate humans with food, and this led to a couple dangerous interactions. So we definitely do not advise this to happen in the Mediterranean. We are learning from the poor souls that had mishaps happen to them. Another thing that did not work were bounties. Now, a bounty is when a government reimburses somebody for caught lionfish monetarily. Now, they started this initially in Belize and the USA, but the money was quickly exhausted and lionfish abundances continued to rapidly increase. So, bounty programs also hinder natural commercial development of lionfish fisheries. So, this is also not recommended. Control strategies then shifted to awareness raising, training fishers on safe handling, and market development for lionfish. Now, tournaments or derbies are competitive removal events, usually organized over a day or a weekend, where the winning team gets prizes for either the largest lionfish, the smallest lionfish, or the most caught lionfish. Such events in the Florida Keys and the Bahamas have shown that single-day tournaments have reduced lionfish densities by over 50% over a 200-kilometer area. The Emerald Coast Open, which is organized by our good friend Alex Fogg from Okaloosa County, that happens each May in Destin, Florida, is by far the most successful lionfish derby. In 2019, just 189 divers were successful in removing over 14,000 lionfish over 2 days. So these are definitely successful in controlling lionfish. Now, derbies have many actually associated benefits. They improve education, they improve awareness, they improve research. Here on the right, you can see our colleague Ali Candelmo. She is doing a dissection show for some of the guests to show them exactly what lionfish are eating and how much food they can fit in their stomachs. And such events also attract new tourists to the area and increase local spending. So the benefits are many. And the tasting events also show people that lionfish are delicious and they're a healthy alternative and a new protein source. So other things that have also worked. Some nations in the Western Atlantic have developed national lionfish management plans. Probably the most advanced one is the Belizean plan. Now, this one is based purely on science, and it has many collaborations across NGOs, fishers, government, and they are open to adapting and changing their strategy continually. So this is something we should all try to do. The development of commercial fisheries should definitely also be encouraged, and alternative markets for lionfish can increase the value of lionfish. So there's lionfish jewelry and there's lionfish leather that is also being sold now. So these are also great new initiatives and developing new markets. So the messages we would like to ensure that get across today. Culling works. Now, one of the main concerns, I think, of Mediterranean policymakers is that scuba divers, when allowed to dive with pole spears, will illegal fish for other protected species. Now, I just want to stress that in the Western Atlantic, this has not occurred. There are almost no cases of this. So if the events and the control strategies are designed properly, this can be circumvented. Now, in the Mediterranean, currently only Libya and Egypt allow scuba diving and spearfishing. Cyprus is currently allowing lionfish control, but this is through NGOs and hasn't officially made it to policy yet. We urge the governments of Greece, Turkey, Lebanon, Israel, and Tunisia to learn from the American example or Western Atlantic example and permit culling with scuba divers in some form or another. So removal efforts would be stronger if they were supported regionally, and these measures should begin as soon as possible. So thank you for your interest in our work, and remember, eat 'em to beat 'em. Have a great day.